Google's natively multimodal AI agenda. Multimodal AI approaches. Gemini history. Why Gemini matters. Multimodal processing lifecycle. Getting started. Basic workflow. Modalities and context. Multimodal AI. Multimodal AI understands and works across more than one kind of input, like text, images, audio, and video, rather than just one. If a model only understands text, it can't directly reason about a photo, a chart, or a recording without some separate translation step first. Almost every real-world task blends multiple kinds of information, from a screenshot with a question to a video that needs summarizing. Any assistant meant to handle everyday requests benefits from understanding whatever format the information actually comes in. Forcing every image, audio clip, and video into a text description before an AI can use it doesn't scale to how people naturally communicate. Bolted on and natively multimodal models. A modality bolted on model is trained mainly on text, with separate modules added later to handle images, audio, and other formats like video and animation. Gemini instead was built from the ground up to be natively multimodal, trained jointly on text, code, images, audio, and video within one model. Bolted on text primary training, separate added modules, modalities loosely joined. Natively multimodal. Gemini trained jointly from the start, one unified model. Problems with bolted-on multimodality. Single point of disconnect. A separate module for each modality can lose nouns when translating between them. Reasoning that spans modalities, like connecting a diagram to the text describing it, is harder when they are handled by different systems. Bolted-on modules are often trained separately, so their understanding of context doesn't always align with the core model's understanding. Adding a new modality later can mean retrofitting an entirely new subsystem rather than extending existing understanding. Latency and complexity increase when a request has to be routed between multiple specialized components. Misses out on the deeper, unified reasoning that comes from learning all modalities together from the start. The Gemini system. Gemini is trained jointly across text, code, images, audio, and video, rather than treating each as a separate add-on. A single underlying model reasons across whatever combination of inputs a request includes. Long context windows let Gemini work with very large inputs, like lengthy documents, code bases, and hours of audio and video in one request. Other well-known conversational AI systems: OpenAI ChatGPT, Anthropic's Claude, Meta AI. Gemini advantages: reasons across text, images, audio, video, and code within one unified model. Long context windows support very large documents, code bases, and media in a single request. Deep integration across Google Search, Workspace, Android, and Chrome brings it into everyday tools. Multiple model sizes let a task balance speed, cost, and depth of reasoning. Powers related: generative tools for images and video alongside the core language model, backed by Google's DeepMind's ongoing research across model generations. Everything shares one underlying model almost. One huge benefit of this design is that in Gemini, almost every modality is understood by the same underlying model, not a separate specialized system. Text, images, audio, and video are processed within one shared architecture rather than being handled by different subsystems stitched together. This lets Gemini reason across modalities directly, like connecting what's said in a video to what's shown on screen at the same moment. Because everything shares one model, adding understanding of a new modality strengthens the same shared reasoning rather than bolting on an isolated piece. This unified natively multimodal architecture is the technical foundation Google has built to each Gemini generation and on each Gemini generation on top of such generation. Modalities and context windows. Modality: a distinct kind of input and output the model handles. Context window: how much content Gemini can consider in a single request. A simplified multimodal request: a single request can combine multiple modalities in one prompt. A simplified long context request: long context windows let very large inputs be considered in a single request. History: Google Brain and DeepMind merged in 2023 to form Google DeepMind, unifying the company's AI research efforts. Gemini 1.0 was announced on December 6, 2023 in three sizes, as positioned as Google's first natively multimodal model family. A fine-tuned version of Gemini began powering Bard, Google's earlier chatbot, before the Gemini name replaced Bard entirely in the year early 2024. The early 2024 year, yeah. Gemini 1.5 introduced a much longer context window, followed by the 2.0 and 2.5 generations, adding stronger reasoning and agentic capabilities. Subsequent Gemini releases have continued to expand reasoning ability, context length, and integration across Google's products. Why Gemini matters? Natively multimodal. Reasons across text, images, audio, video, and code in one model. Long context capable. Can work with very large documents, code bases, and media at once. Deeply integrated, built into Search, Workspace, Android, and Chrome. Multi-tiered, different model sizes balance speed against depth of reasoning. Backed by Google DeepMind. Unified research effort behind each generation. Rapidly evolving. Successive Gemini generations have steadily expanded capability. The Google DeepMind merger. Google Brain and DeepMind combined in 2023 to unify Google's AI research under one team. The merger brought together two of Google's largest AI research groups into a single organization. Google DeepMind has since driven development across each successive Gemini generation. Never assume Gemini's capabilities come from a single research group working in isolation. It draws on a large, unified research organization. Gemini processing lifecycle: text, image, audio, video input combined into one context. Fuse modalities: process with one model, reason, generate the answer, respond. Text, images, audio, and video are combined into one shared context, processed by a single model and returned as one response. Getting started with Gemini. This leads us to the three steps that get your first conversation going. Choose a surface. Access Gemini through the app, workspace, and the API. Pick a model. Select a model size that fits your task. Submit a prompt. Combine text with images, audio, and video as needed. Basic workflow: combining, reasoning, and generating. Some call combine, reason, and generate Gemini's everyday loop. Request can mix text, images, audio, and video freely within a single prompt. Long context windows let entire documents and code bases inform a single response. Reasoning happens across modalities directly, not through separate translation steps. Generated output can include text, code, and connect to related tools for images and video. Supports many workflows: research, coding, document analysis, and everyday workspace tasks. Works the same across the Gemini app, Google Workspace, and developer platforms. Any questions? Thank you.